All right, let us start the session by chanting Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. All right, so the chapter Anicca Sutta. So the Anicca Sutta is one of the suttas within the Anguttara Nikaya, within the sets of six. So within the sets of six, it often relates to 6 parts being explained in each sutta, right? So we have the Anicca Sutta. This Anicca Sutta draws parallel with regards to many other suttas concerning the topic of impermanence and concerning the topics concerning the practice of vipassana, inclined towards, of course, nirvana. The Chakka Anicca Sutta brings to light a very important aspect of contemplation and contemplative awareness. And within this sutta, the important aspect which is elucidated specifically within this sutta is with regards to the mind and the acceptance of impermanence, right? The acceptance of impermanence. Now, when we relate to, or let's go directly into the sutta and then come. All right, so page number 101, please. It is a very short sutta, but when it goes into sort of truly comprehending the message that it is trying to elucidate upon, then it is not that short, right? So let us see. Page 101. Anicca Sutta, the discourse on impermanence. Indeed, monks, it is impossible that a monk who considers any formation as permanent to be endowed with mental receptivity that goes with the grain, with true reality. Here, when indeed monks, it is impossible that a monk who considers any formation here would relate to any formation with regard to the Pali word sankhara, related to both nama and rupa, the planes, the aggregates, the indriyas, all of it, all across the board, any formation, right? Sankhara. As permanent, right? Any formation as permanent. It is to be endowed with mental receptivity that goes with the grain, with true reality. It is impossible that one who is endowed with mental receptivity, it is impossible that one who is endowed with mental receptivity that goes against the grain with true reality, right? If one has mental receptivity, that person, it is impossible for that person to go against the grain, right? Now, don't take it in the way that are sort of Sinhalese, sort of from, I think, culture, we have sayings, cultural Buddhist sayings, where we say the practice is all about going against grain, you know. That is not the grain that we are speaking about here, right? And that will become more clear as we go on. Would plunge into the certainty of rightness, would enter the Noble Eightfold Path. It is impossible that one, not plunging into the way of rightness, would realize, without plunging into the way of rightness, would realize the fruit of stream winning, or the fruit of the once returner, the fruit of the non-returner, or the fruit of arahanthood, right? Here within this sutta, the most important aspects relate to two words, or two, it is two words, although we have 5 words here with the translation, which is mental receptivity, 1, and the certainty of rightness, 2, right? The certainty of rightness, which is 2. We'll come to that. The other verse. Indeed, monks, it is impossible that a monk who considers all formations as impermanent, to be endowed with mental receptivity that goes with the grain, right? It is impossible that one endowed with mental receptivity that goes with the grain would plunge into certainty of rightness. It is possible, would plunge into certainty of rightness. It is possible that one plunging into the way of rightness would realize the fruit of stream winning, or the fruit of once returning, the fruit of non-returning, or the fruit of arahanthood. And that is all the sutta is, right? That is all the sutta is. The sutras are getting shorter and shorter. Might be a complaint that comes. Is Bhante being lackadaisical? Not quite, not yet. Now, when we look at the sutta from the perspective of a practitioner, now through the weeks, not only with the sutra class, but we've discussed a very nice sutta last week on Wednesday as well, which actually aligns with this sutta very well. And so is the next week's sutra going to be, another instrument of adding on to last week's sutta and this sutta together. When we look or even reminisce at what we have learned with the meditation practice, through practice, we are now trying to sort of see the implications, the applications of what we know, right? Of what we know in Dhamma. We come into this realization when we do sit down and practice. Am I lagging? Is my voice continuous? I'm not lagging, yeah? Okay. When we look through the perspective of one who is sitting in meditation, and if we are to recollect, like the recollection that we would do after our meditation, we would find ourselves from the scope of observation. We've spoken about the arising of vitarka, right? Vitarka. We've been repeating this word for a couple of weeks now, vitarka, right? Now, when a subject of meditation appears or is observed and an experience appears, the mind has a tentative nature where with or together with that subject or as a distraction, vitarka would appear. Now, we are not talking about the distraction. That is obvious, and that's another type of obstruction. We are not talking about that. We are talking about the vitarka that arises in response to the insight experience that one might be facing at the time of meditation, right? At the time of meditation. That vitarka is a manifestation, or that vitarka respectively arises in due order with one's shraddha, one's attributes, what one knows as knowledge, right? All of this, isn't it? Right? However, it is quite clear to us when within the Abhidhamma it says that a laukika puggala, a mundane being, cannot comprehend, or within the mundane being there would not arise the pala, magga pala chittas, right? What that essentially means is a laukika or a mundane being is unable to fathom the quality, the functions, the features of the magga pala chittas. Essentially, to put it into real simple terms, however much that we would try to imagine what Nibbana is in its 4 levels, whatever conclusion that we might arrive at would be not accurate. It would not be accurate. Even if we are learning about Shunyata, Nibbana, it is only an idea that we are cultivating in our minds. It is not direct experience. And the actual experience is very different from what we think it might be. That is what essentially that part means, that a laukika, a mundane individual, is unable to comprehend the aspects, functions, features, manifestations, and all of those qualities of the magga pala chitta. So then vitarka arises. So then this vitarka, if it is inciting upon us or within us an idea of the journey to be, that journey to be has not been seen by vitarka, but is only an assumption built upon the ditti that the puggala might have, the views that the puggala might have, the individual might have. That is clear, isn't it? Right? If I have not been to a place, but and seen the visual of the place, I've only heard about it. Now I'm trying to explain something which has not been seen by me or felt by me or experienced by me firsthand. It is obviously going to not be the exact insight that the Dhamma relates to. So then, what is the insight that Dhamma relates to, and how do we achieve it would be our next question. Seems like quite a, poignant question, isn't it? I mean, then how do we, or, how do we see it? What is this vipassana? Or, how do we come about it if it is not the way that we might assume it might be, right? To that question arises the aid of mental receptivity, right? Mental receptivity. Now for us, now I'm going to ask you a question. If someone says something to you, or if someone does something to you, right? And you are now, you choose to be patient, right? You choose to be patient. What does that patience essentially mean to you? Or how do you sort of bring out that patience? How would patience enact in that kind of a scenario? Right. Yes, Dil. You want to say something?
I can say something. I don't know.
Dil, I can't hear you.
I'm unmuted, Bhante. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now, Bhante? I mean, just your thought that came to when you asked the questions. I don't know whether the answer that you expect, but what I feel that if something happens to you or experience or you hear something that don't want to happen, or that makes you feel inferior or in any way negative. And if you feel patient about it, to me, I would feel that that's a positive feature, that I'm having some kind of progress on the path of why I'm meditating. Because that means that the duality that this is pain, or that this is dishonor, or that this is blame, or any one of those negative features, that the negative at the spectrum of that is that in some way that has got a little bit less. So therefore, I would think it's some progress I'm making on the path that I'm becoming patient without reacting and responding. I mean, that's just only my.
Okay, now that sounds like a contemplation about the experience. So more of what you would sort of assume or be happy about after you have sort of gone through it. But at the time, I'm speaking in present real time, right? At that moment, just, I mean, we've all had this experience, isn't it? We've all had it. You know, firsthand, someone said something to us, some, maybe physical or just mental manipulation, or just to our faces in front of friends or in public or something. It has happened to all of us, right? Now, at that moment, now, if you are not the type that just burst with a reaction, I mean, what goes through is patience. What does it feel like at that moment? Yes, Shriyati.
Hurt. I feel hurt.
Okay, good.
I feel hurt. And later I start thinking, why do I feel this hurt? And I start looking at whether it's my ego or my greed or my hate. So I later start thinking to heal myself.
Okay.
Start with, I feel hurt.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, lovely. Hurt. Right now, that's a feeling that we often would feel in a scenario of the sort. Now so then what is the reason that we did not say something back? Yes, Sujatha.
Bhante, I actually would have retorted. I would have said something in return. That's my way of thinking.
Yeah, so don't message her. She will retort.
Sorry?
Yes.
Bhante, you're not very clear to me. Maybe I can't hear you properly.
Am I?
Hello? Getting clear. Okay. Did you hear me well enough, Bhante?
I did hear you well enough. Yes. I did hear you well enough. Can everyone else hear me?
Answer.
I think I freeze.
Okay.
That's what happens.
You would freeze. Okay. So, okay, with patience. Yeah,
probably a bit of anger as well.
Bhante, if you have patience, you can respond in different ways. If it is somebody very close to you saying something, then sometimes you might have anger, or you can flee. Yes. But if it is somebody who really you are not very involved with, they say something, sometimes it just bounce off you. It doesn't bother you so much because they are not so emotionally intent. So people can respond in different ways. But if you actually respond with patience, that means that the sankharas haven't been very strong with this, because that is not such a major issue for you, or the incident is not, or the person is not so involved. Probably if you later on think you can understand, but if you respond in patience without anything, then it hasn't caused these very proliferative sankharas. That's why you're responding with a little bit of patience. Maybe that is just somebody whom you're not bothered with.
Let's go down to the patience. So if we are responding with patience, right? If we are patient, right? What would go through one's mind when you are trying to be patient? Now, you usually try to be patient, isn't it? Because Because we often, if something does happen to us, maybe even with our facial expressions, might change, might change. People around you might feel that, yes, this person did get hurt, but this person did not respond in an aggressive manner, right? So if you just go down to the moment that the person is attempting to be patient, think about yourself. No need to think about anyone else, because we have enough examples ourselves. When one is attempting to sort of act with patience, there is a dialogue which goes on in one's mind. How do I react? What should I do? Should I smile? Should I not? Should I say something? What can I say? Should I walk away? Should I avoid this person? Or we might also sort of, show a cool outlook, but inside you might have different things going on, right? Now, that whole process can look like patience, right? Within this, it gives a different depth to patience in terms of the insight practice and what patience truly comes off as when practiced. And that is mental receptivity, right? Mental receptivity. How does it work? If one truly believes in something, right? Let's say in the importance of being patient, for example, right? You believe in the fact of being completely or practicing or having patience, right? Practicing it as a virtue. But although we might be practicing it as a virtue, if there are questions that come, that arise, right? Questions that might arise in your mind, that is a refute of mind to the patience that is trying to or being attempted to be displayed or practiced, isn't it? Right? It is like you are forced, because you are courteous, you choose to eat something that has been served at a friend's house. You don't like it, but you try to force a couple of morsels through your throat just because you don't want to be, just because we might not want to be rude sometimes. Just take that example, right? Now, you're doing it, but the mind is not completely accepting it, right? That acceptance is what mental receptivity talks about. When we are observing something, the breath, the sensations, whatever object of meditation, the vitarka that would arise, questioning the observation or experience or coming into conclusions with regard to the practice or the experience, this is a refute of the mind against the vipassana practice. The mental receptivity here then speaks about coming back to, remember that red, blue, gray image I had drawn out in the slides with the triangle, anusaya karma and consciousness, right? It comes down to that diagram. Because the anusaya still has that impeding force, the karma that is available and the consciousness is affected by the potency of the anusayas and the hindrances, the clutch of the hindrances or the grasp of the hindrances over the consciousness. Over the consciousness. When that happens, the energy that arises in terms of, now if it is vipassana practice, vipassana is a trihetuka kusala, right? Vipassana is a three-rooted wholesome practice or a consciousness. A three-rooted wholesome practice cannot have or be defiled by what? By akusala, unwholesome. Vitarkas refuting the practice cannot then arise, and with its arising, the energy of vipassana cannot grow. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? If the power force has to be of a certain variant of or type, and there is this other energy disturbing the force of that main force, now the force is affected. Now that lack of receptivity is what this sutta speaks about. Through the Anusati practices, we try to sort of season the mind in a way that the Dhamma would be now accepted. When the Dhamma is not fully accepted, the Vipassana does not grow. Simple as that. The Vipassana does not grow. So then it comes down to what is this mental receptivity? Mental receptivity is the acceptance of impermanence, suffering, and non-self with regards to the Vishuddhimagga, with regard to the Patisambhida, with regards to the Abhidhammata Sangha. All that we know or learn through the Abhidhammata Sangha is the facilitation of the core foundation of the first Vipassana knowledge. The mind that does not accept that knowledge does not then contribute. It now acts as a hindrance for the flourishing of Dhamma from Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, and the rest of the Eightfold Noble Path. This in Pali is called Anuloma Kanti. Anuloma Kanti. Anuloma, the meaning of Anuloma is receptivity. Being receptive, right? Being receptive, following, right? Following, being receptive, accepting, right? That is the meaning of Anuloma. Then the Kanti is patience, right? It is in a process where the mind has this asset of Anuloma Kanti, where now the seeds of Vipassana have received all its support to grow. If the Anuloma Kanti is not present, it is something like this. Now we, taking a mundane example, we are patient. We have displayed because of Dhamma, no other reason. Not because you couldn't fight back, not because you didn't have anything more nasty to say, not because you are a silent person. You had the best comeback. You had the best way of replying to the person who was rude to you. However, inspired by Dhammic patience, you didn't. Right? Not because of anything else. Not because you didn't want to create a scene, not because you didn't want to make things unsavory, not because of anything, not because of fear, not because of anything. Inspired by Dhamma, you were patient. E velavedi maitri kara. Example. Right? And you did not react. You come back home, and now when you're thinking about the incidents, you're like, oh, aparadhi, Right now, this happens, isn't it? This happens very often. Sometimes, even with family or friends or unknown people, regardless, you do something, and then even a lot in dana, isn't it? Sometimes you give, but then you think, we don't want to admit it, but, questions arise in mind. With regards to anything that is good, does that not happen? Right? Certain questions arises in the mind. Right? We've now taken this mundane example of something which tests your patience. That question weakens the initial procedure, weakens the original commitment. Do you understand now? Anuloma kanti is when that later questioning does not arise. Do you understand? Where now you have truly accepted that your way of handling the situation with metta, with all the dhamma that you know, and you can muster the energy to uphold, that is a spirit by which your patience, and no question about it, that was the best you could do. And that's the best you chose to do at that time. No question about it. That is Anuloma Kanti. Do you understand? Right? Now, in the Vipassana process, this Anuloma Kanti is the commitment, the acceptance, the following of Dhamma. Of Dhamma. Of what Dhamma? The Dhamma of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Because these are the three main characteristics that we contemplate within our Vipassana practice, isn't it? When we would assume the way, or when we choose to question the acceptance of seeing phenomena, sankharas as impermanent, suffering, and non-self, that now weakens the power of the mind taking on the role of a vipassana inspired or motivated mind. Hence, the vipassana does not grow. When in Dhamma practice, you might have experienced in certain weeks or days that you have truly been able to know such vitarkas happen, nothing that sort of questioned your sila happened, and you are very happy. Maybe if you have ever gone to an aranya, right? When you ever go, if you've stayed at an aranya or at a meditation retreat or something, you might find that your vipassana keeps on growing. Because the aspects rejecting the vipassana insights does not or has not arisen. Right? The questioning doubt with regard to the experience and the experiencer is now observing the questions and doubts have not arisen with regards to that. Now, this is not on the fact of one should have blind faith and accept with utmost conviction the Dhamma because the Buddha said so. This is not that sort of a thing. This is not a question of how well you know the Dhamma. This is a question of, are the hindrances impeding your decision? That's the question. Do you understand? Because Dharma, originally as taught by the Buddha in so many ways, it's supposed to be questioned. Right? It's supposed to be questioned. It's supposed to be cross-questioned 1 time, 2 times, 100 times, 1,000 times in order to give you the clarity and dimensional understanding of the Dhamma. However, what impedes or now acts as a hindrance is the defilements, or are the defilements that would now create a barrier within the consciousness to accept the insight. Do you understand? That hindrance is what creates the disturbance for the growth. That is why we went to Anusaya, Karma, and consciousness. Because these three, through mutual conditioning, support one another to maintain one's energy, one's consciousness together. The latent tendencies, Samantha is asking, what about the latent tendencies? The latent tendencies are there and will be there. However, the suppression of the defilements, just like what we discussed at the group karma session, the person might have the karma, the good karma, to experience something so good in life. However, because the conditions, the atmosphere is not present, the karma does not have the support to now bring about fruition. Likewise, the latent tendencies will be there. It will not be going anywhere. However, when the condition of insight is now present within the mind, supported, continuous application, supported by Anulomika Kanti, now the latent tendencies have lesser ground for it to have a major impact upon the consciousness. A loving bringing about the foundation required, necessary, support required and necessary for the Vipassana practitioner to move forward with insight. Is that understood? Do you have any questions? Anyone? Right. Now, if we come to page number 97. Page number 97. All right, are we there? Okay. Page number 97, 212, right, which is the last paragraph. Mental receptivity, Kanti, usually means patience, but here it means choice, receptivity, preference, and acceptance. The BHSD defines Kanti, or here Shanti, as intellectual receptivity, right? Intellectual receptivity. The being ready in advance to accept knowledge. The being ready in advance to accept knowledge. Kanti is often used in the canon in this latter sense. The phrase can also be freely rendered as a receptivity in harmony with true nature. Now, for a person who embodies patience, now when we talk about the patience of the Buddha, right? When we talk about the patience of the Buddha, when something drastic happens to the Buddha never, to the Buddha's mind, does it appear, I will punish him in this way, I will punish him in that way. It does not appear. That, of course, doesn't appear, of course, because the hindrances are not there, but that is not the point. The possibility, the Buddha was trained as a bodhisattva, within that life was trained in military combat and combat, basically, right? He was trained in, different skills that would make him a military man. However, knowing all of that, having that skill, still it does not appear to him. Why? Because of Anulomika Kanti. His patience, the embodiment of his patience is so much so that it is not refuted even by mind. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? The point. If it is truly embodied, it cannot be refuted. You are men and women here, right? You are human. You know that. Someone might call you a cat or a dog. But in your heart of hearts, you don't need proof to tell you that you're not a cat or a dog. Isn't it? It's so clear and apparent to you. You're not going to be turning the books to find what makes you a dog, what makes you a cat, because it is so evidently clear to you that you are not a cat or a dog, right? So you just take it as an insult. You do not align it with reality. Patience for a practitioner who has then matured within the practice has the clear clarity to conform to what? A receptivity in harmony with true nature. What is true nature? Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Do you understand? Right? So here we are, although we use mundane examples, we are referring to the mental refute of mind against Kanti. And here Kanti or Anulomika Kanti is translated as the receptive acceptance of, very important, true reality. Anicca, dukkha, anatta of the world. So with every contemplative action or contemplative attempt that you would make, it has to be made in such a manner, even with the reading of the sutta, it has to be made in such a manner that it allows Anulomika Kanti to become more powerful. Do you understand? Right? Now coming down. Right? 214. Sorry, page number 998, para 214. It should be understood as suffering and as non-self. As stated in the Anicca Sutta, similarly, each of the other aggregates, right, and all the 6 internal sensors, the 6 external centers should be regarded so. The way to regard the aggregates as impermanent is given in the Anicca Sutta thus, right? Now, such is form. Such is the arising of form. Such is the ending of form. Right? Such. Now, can I ask one of you to translate that sentence to Sinhala, please? How would we translate it? For better clarity. Someone? Can we say, okay. Hemamali, can you try?
Bhante, form is Rupa. May Rupayadda. How do you say? May such is form.
Such is
Mala.
Mala. Okay. Okay.
මේ රූපයකි මේ රූපයේ ඉපදීමයි මේ රූපයේ නැතිවීමයි.
Okay. Right. Right. So now, what do we have to say? What are your thoughts about the word such and about the word mere?
It comes to Anicca Dukkha Anatta, isn't it? Science. Wrong?
Well, I mean, of course, I mean, that is the...
There is the form.
But why do they
Yes.
use the word such and translate it mere?
Because of the present moment. Present moment.
Right. What else do you think? Present moment. Can you explain that, Hemamali?
මේ වෙලාවේ හටගත්. The form which arises at the present. Form arises
At the
at the present moment. At the moment.
At the moment of meditation, think about it, like these five sentences, right? These 5 sentences. You are meditating, and this is what you're meditating on, right? Now, if you would tell me, if you are meditating on form, Maya Rupayai, Maya Rupe Hataganimai, Maya Rupe Nirodhayai. All right. Now, this, what do you gain, or not rather, how does that experience, or how does that seem in a practical sense, right? How can this be seen in a practical sense?
And in English, you might say form is like this. So you're suddenly saying, my God, form is like this. Rising form is like this. So it's like a revelation to you. And ending a form is like this. So it's like a real aha moment that you open. This, my God, this is form. Form is like this. And this is the rising of form. And this is the sense. So there is suddenly an expansion of consciousness. Suddenly, like you're dipped into something. My God, something has hit you. I can't tell in single this word, but that I would, my mind thinks in English, that's how I would say. Form is like this. And it's like a surprise.
Is the Paticca Samuppada is there? It is the Paticca Samuppada?
No. Don't go that deep. Don't go that deep. Just think at this moment you're sitting in meditation and something about the form appears. At that moment, when you're with your eyes in practice, how would this practically be seen? Yes, Devika.
You see the form, then you realize it came into your mind, and then that is the form doesn't stay, and then it ends. That shows the Anicca Bhavai Dukkhai Natila yana ඊට පස්සේ. Is it right? You're seeing a form, then it's there. You don't take it in your heart.
Okay.
And then it fades.
Okay.
You let go of it.
Rising and falling?
Yes, Shriyani, tell me. Yanna?
This is rising and falling because you are in a meditative state, and it's like it's in the that is something that comes into your Bhavanga Chitta, because you are in the Bhavanga Chitta moment, and when you're in it, and then it comes to your mind, and it appears and disappears because you are in a deep thought. It is like that moving image while you are in that deep state, the
And you
moving
don't-
images.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's how I see it when I in a deep meditation. This is a moving, I think chitta. It's like all the bhavanga chitta moving.
Mhm. Okay, okay, okay. Anyone else?
I think you
Someone.
feel the impermanence.
I was just thinking, Bhante, say if the form is the breath, say, in my meditation, I would see I would stay with the breath and see the arising of the breath and be with the breath, how it observe, just simply observe what is there, the presentation, the changing of if the breath changes, and then slowly, and then what happens then? Say if it goes the what do you call it, arising, passing away, and then that sort of thing maybe, and then see the changing nature of the form.
Who else?
I don't think you cotton on. You shouldn't cotton on to the thought. You need to let that move on. You don't. When you see it, you don't follow the thought.
No.
Oh,
It's
No, not the
I thought it was instant thought.
let's
No, instant moment.
let's
I was thinking, sorry.
Sorry, Bhante, isn't there an element of surprise? For the first time, you're seeing form in a very different way, whatever the object is, in a very, so such is the realization, such is form. So form, my gosh, this is like this. So there is that element, you're seeing form in a very different way, arising in a much more like reality than what we have normally seen. So that's why I'm saying, so such is form. So you're literally like, realizing something that you have never seen form like this, or the rising of form. So there's an element of surprise and seeing it in a very different way, which is more aligned or more receptive to whatever ultimate reality or what, more receptivity.
No, Sujata? Okay.
I thought it was something instant thing and vanishes away.
Mhm.
Something like that, because you're in a meditative mood. We don't live by it, we just pass it on. That's my way. Sorry if it's wrong.
Fine. Yes, Mala?
Bhante, instead of saying mere rupayai, you can say, to make it more sort of positive, you can say mere rupe swabhavayai, mere rupe hataganimi swabhavayai, mere rupe nirodhyavimi swabhavayai. It gives more weight, the word.
Yes. Yes, sure. But okay. Now, when it comes the usage of the word such or maya, right? Remember what we just sort of went through with Anuloma Kanti. If the meditation experience, the word such, or the pronouncing of the experience, is done through vitakka, again it has a hindrance has come up, right? There is no, or when observing, if let's say for example the word which was used, it comes as an element of surprise, right? Remember that such is form, this contemplation from the first vipassana jnana all the way up to the 7th vipassana jnana, it is the same contemplation maturing, right? The nature of the contemplation is the same, but now it's maturing into deeper stances, positions, observations, results, going deeper. So if at the moment of seeing the question comes, the question comes, during the moment of observation, when we say such is form, there is no question. Right? Here, to even understand it with even more clarity, we must divide the observation into past, present, and future. Right? Past, present, and future. Such is form. This is where now that other word, certainty of rightness, comes in. But certainty of rightness cannot be comprehended up until Anulomaka Kanti has arisen. Because then some people without Anulomika Kanti, if the certainty of rightness appears, Mithya Drushtika Adhas, you start supporting self-views. So that is something to really, really be careful of. They start believing in states that they don't have just because they think they might have the state, right? Because that is what the mind is saying. So when Anulomaka Kanti is present, then the certainty of rightness. Now, certainty of rightness is at this moment a feel. Make a harimargya, right? And when a person is able to to have that certainty of heart with regards to Anicca, Dukkha, Anatma and its qualities within phenomena all around, internal and external, that is where certainty of rightness, you know, I am going to attain Nibbana through this, following this path. Do you understand? I am going to attain Nibbana. It is not a command. It is not a reassurance. It is a state of knowing. Do you understand? You can say, I am going to attain Nibbana, where you are saying you're motivating yourself, right? It is not something of that sort. It is in the sense of knowing that that you have seen the arising, the forming, the dissolution of rupa, that observation is in line with anicca, dukkha, anatma leading to nibbana. Hence, the certainty of rightness towards the Eightfold Noble Truths. I'm sorry, Eightfold Noble Path. Right? Eightfold Noble Path. So such is the form. Such is form. In the present, you observe it. It becomes clear to you in the present. When and as it becomes clear, remember, insight is not external application into the mind. It is the mind that is embodied by insight. Do you understand the difference? Because we have three: anusaya, kamma, and consciousness. Insight exists not in anusaya. That is clear. Insight doesn't exist in kamma. That is also clear. Insight exists within consciousness. It is not the application of insight into consciousness. Insight is within consciousness. When insight is within the consciousness, you don't need another vitarka coming in and telling, that is form, that is form. Right? You don't need something external coming and now telling you, I've seen it. No. When that Kanti is present, such is the form. That is it. It is not a question. It is not a statement. It has no vitakka. Do you understand? It has no vitakka. Vitakka in the sense of coming up and pointing something at you. When that vitakka comes up, now what happens is it hinders that inside growth. Now you are experiencing the dissolution of form, You were experiencing the dissolution of form. Now Vitarka has to come up and remind you that you're seeing the dissolution of form. That is not right. Right? That is why even through the jhanic experience, why jhanas can be such a promotive element to insight, is because it gets rid of that vitarka. It subdues that questioning, that remark, that conclusion that comes in after every experience, which is actually your assumption over the experience. Do you understand? Right? So such is the form. It is presence. Right? It is present. Such is the arising of form. Right? Now, the aspect is, we will be coming to it in a bit, the aspect is the focus shifts. The focus can be upon the form. The focus can be upon the rising of the form. The focus can be upon the ending of the dissolution of the form. Now, Bhangayana is when the focus shifts from the presence, the arising, to the dissolution. Now we only stick to the dissolution of Nama and Rupa. That is Bhangayana. Right? That is Bhangayana. But how can we stick to a specific part of the form when the mind keeps coming up and saying stuff? You know what I mean? You know, like someone calling you to come eat dinner or lunch. Right? All the time, which happens. You know? It doesn't work like that. So hence, the suppression of that question, the vitarka aspect of the mind, allows the insight and the acceptance of the insight to further grow. Right? To further grow. Now, we come into the position of, right, page number 98, 2.2. The conformity is that of insight knowledge with the supramundane path. The conformity refers to receptivity of just that. The conformity refers to receptivity, acceptance, khanti of just that. Do you get it? Of just that. Right? ඒ මොහොතේ යම්කිසි විදර්ශනා ඥානයක් හටගන්නව නම් ඒ විදර්ශනා ඥානය පිළිබඳ විතරයි ශාන්තිය තියෙන්නේ. Making that a foundation, we do not think about the insight of the future. No. Do you understand? Now we do that, isn't it? Because we know so much of Dhamma, right? We do that sometimes. Because even when you're observing the breath, right? Sometimes we know, Hari, after we go through this part, what happens next? We know that, right? Now, applying that is also now not insight. Now you're curbing insight now, right? Anulomika khanti, to just that what? Just that insight which appears within that present moment. Do you understand? Right? Don't you think these are very important points? You know, these are very important points, right? Now, of just that, to accept that all formations are impermanent, suffering, and non-self. This is receptivity. The conforming receptivity, anulomika khanti, is threefold. One, weak receptivity, mudukha lomika khanti, beginning with the comprehension by groups and ending with the knowledge of arising and ending, right? That is kalapa. Samma Sandika Udayabbaya Jnana up until Udayabbaya Jnana. From Kalapa to Udayabbaya. Now, the medium receptivity is beginning with the contemplation of dissolution and ending with the knowledge of equanimity about formations, right? Equanimity about formation, which is a high position to be at, right? Then strong receptivity is tikka khanti, the knowledge that conforms with truth, anulomika jnana, right? Anulomika jnana is obviously that jnana which arises with, of course, now going into the experience of Maggaphala, right? Maggaphala. Do you understand? Now this position, now we might not be in situations where we could justly speak about insight, jnanas, vipassana knowledges, but this gives us a clear indication of how to maneuver the mind to where the insight knowledges are able to arise, right? Able to arise. Because remember, insight, when an insight appears, that is an insight. Insight, vipassana jnana keka. Even a bit of insight with regards to nama rupa paricheda, mind and matter, is insight. The problem that we have is that the insight isn't growing, right? For the insight to grow, we must realize that insight is not a foreign application. It is an embodiment within the consciousness itself at the present moment. And for that present moment insight power to arise, we must stop disturbing it. Disturbing it with what? Disturbing it with the vitakka, right? The vitakka. Now let's go to Abhidhamma, right? We know that the application of the mind, which happens through a specific consciousness, the most vibrant moment of a chitta viti is the javana process. The 7 javanas, right? The 7 javanas. It is through the same 7 javanas we have gone over in the Viti chapter what happens at the moment of Maggaphala as well already, right? It is through the javanas that we are able to go deeper into the experience, to really form an energy with the experience. We know that phala, fruition, is a vipaka chitta, isn't it? The magga is a kusala chitta. The phala is a vipaka chitta, resultant. Resultant of what? The kusala. What is the kusala? The magga. Now take that scope. If the javana was not able to produce the energy required at that state, where the magga arises as a kusala leading to that vipaka, which is the phala, which gives us an idea of the power that we develop. The power is so strong that we now go through a process of mental change. Now the depending variance of the mind changes. Because of that, we say gotrabu. Heard that word before? Gotrabu, right? That is why. Because now the conforming elements of the mind, the elements to which the mind conforms, have changed. Now we are conforming to sensuality, sensual pleasures. From the 5 bases, whatever we see, that now governs our life, isn't it? But at that stage, the conformity changes. That is why they now relate to the Manodvara Vachana as now Gotrabu, a position where the mind has jumped into another transformative, in a transformative, metamorphical manner, it has jumped to a different higher state. Now, this energy of the javana can continue if another vitarka-based chittaviti did not arise in the between of the Chittavitis, do you understand? If we take a class of mental processes, let's say a class, right? A cluster, sorry, cluster. A cluster of mental processes, right? Now, from the beginning up until here, right? Now, this is many mental processes. Huh? It could have developed a lot of energy, isn't it? But what happens now when the vitarka is allowed or entertained, it breaks it up. Now chittaviti, vipassana chittaviti, vitarka, some nonsense. Then chittaviti, vipassana. Now you see, now the vipassana is not growing. How do we know this? Is this true? Remember the sutra that we did. We did not do the sutra. I quoted the sutra where it says all the Buddhas attain enlightenment at the time or early in the morning. What is the reason? Because they mostly practice meditation early in the morning as bodhisattvas, right? So the karmic energy links from bhava to bhava, which allows them at that prime moment in time, in the morning hours, they attain nibbana, right? They attain nibbana. In the same, that is energy, that's pure energy focused into a particular time of day. Because that is the time that you have now. Just imagine you have a shrine room at home, right? A shrine room. Now, you don't go and eat popcorn in the shrine room or eat dinner in the shrine room. You don't watch movies in the shrine room. You do one specific thing in the shrine room, right? That creates a vibration, not that God or someone or the Buddha himself has come into the shrine room, but in your mind, there is this piety, this devotion. By the power of that poverty, devotion that you have towards whatever you practice in the shrine room, now you feel that the shrine room has a powerful energy, isn't it? An energy so much so that you just go there and you sit and you find that everything about the outside world is no more, just for that moment that you're in it. Now, how is that built? You build it with respect, with devotion, with conviction, with commitment to maintain that space with the vibration that you have maintained that space, right? By the vibration that you maintain that space. In the same manner, this chitta energy, when allowed to flow without hindrance, it cultivates, it becomes better, it becomes stronger. Do you understand? Right? Now, that is what we are then referring to with this with this objective motion of anulomika khanti, right? Anulomika khanti. Now, let us come to page number 99, right? Page number 99. Comprehension knowledge, right? Comprehension knowledge. Now we are just going into it. We are just touching through it, right? We are not going deep into it, but there are a lot of details with regards to these parts of Vipassana knowledge. Let's read. Comprehension knowledge. Sammasana jnana. The knowledge arising from reflecting on name and form, that is, the 5 aggregates, whether past, future, or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, or the 6 internal sense organs and 6 external sense fields either. In terms of the 3 characteristics, right? Now, this is the position of Vipassana we are currently at, right? This is the area of Vipassana that we are currently at. We are still trying to establish, if you see for yourself with regards to your practice, we are still trying to see Anicca, Dukkha, Anatma to prove its to trust in its relevance with regards to phenomena. Isn't that what we try to do? Right? Trying to see impermanent suffering and non-self within phenomena. This is what we are attempting to do. But however much we do it, it doesn't seem to be going through into the other jnanas. That is because of this interruption. The Buddha speaks in different ways about this interruption. This is where the Buddha says if one is able to attain Nibbana between 7 days to 7 years, if one follows along the Satipatthana. What is the mode and mechanism? By seeing impermanent suffering and non-self within the 5 aggregates every moment, right? Every moment. This is alluding to the fact of continuity of vipassana practice, continuity in the building up of vipassana energy, continuity in the conformation continuity in the conforming of the mind to what's the word? Manodwara vajane kotas deka mokad? Right attention. Conforming of the mind to Yoniso Manasikara, allowing the Javana processes to now make or develop true energy which can change the personality or the way a person is, from affecting the consciousness, through the consciousness, affecting both kamma and anusaya. Kamma and anusaya. Is that clear? Right? Now, you can please read the rest in your own time, right? Please go on to page 100. Now, knowledge of conformity. 9. Anuloma jnana. The knowledge that conforms. I'm not going through all the jnanas because it is just touching the jnanas. It is, you can read it on your own, right? But we are focusing on the points of the sutta. The knowledge that conforms to the truths and in the process that attains consciousness process that attains the path. See how that sentence is written out, really spelling out to us the attitude of mind at that position, the knowledge that conforms to the truths. And in the consciousness process that attains the path, occurs prior to change of lineage by way of conforming, by way of conforming. Now, if a person who is not seasoned in the Dhamma is to read this, he might be quite offended. You know, conforming, we have to conform. You know, it's like a brainwashing system, right? Right? I mean, but truly it is not the conforming to a religion, conforming to a teacher. It is conforming to the truths, the way of the world. That is the important part. Because as soon as religion and the teacher comes, ditti comes with it. Ditti comes with it. Now, on the one hand, the 8 insight knowledges that occurred earlier, etc. And on the other hand, the 37 awakening factors that are acquired in the subsequent moment of attaining the path. Now, 3. Sammatta niyama. The second key term of the Anicca Sanya is Sammatta niyama. the certainty of rightness, which is resolved as sammatha and niyama. Although niyama usually means way or course, in the term sammatta niyama, the similar usages, niyama also means certainty. This usage apparently is found only in the Anguttara, the Patisambhida Magga, and the commentaries. Right? The Patisambhida Magga commentary says that Sammatta Niyama refers to the supramundane path, especially the path of stream winning, because of the certainty that is the path assurance. Now, that is the purest aspect of Sammatta Niyama, or the certainty of rightness, where you clearly, surely know it is talking about a sense of mind brought about by now like a magnetic pull, right? Where the person in this position will not turn away at this moment. The fruit is too sweet. The person will not turn away at this moment. That is what this is referring to right here. Right? That is what this is referring to right here. Path, that is path assurance, which is also Magga Niyama. It is said of the stream winner, he is sure of liberation, destined for awakening. Rightness here refers to the surety that we will go in the right direction and gain the right view of true reality. Certainty here means that this path will certainty in this life bring fruition, culminating in due course in arahanthood. That is its purest form. Right? That is its purest form. And that is it. All right, that is it. Read it again, right? Read it again. Go through the jnanas as well. Read it again. I think it's a brilliant sutta. You know, I think it's an absolutely brilliant sutta which elucidates a very, very important aspect that would help any meditator, basic or mature. You know, whether we've just meditated for 1 month or for 10 years, I think this is a very, very important sutta because it talks about the most impeding disturbance to the cultivation of vipassana insight, right? Cultivation of vipassana insight. Okay, so that is it for today. Any questions?
Bhante,
Yes, Ansini.
is it the same thing explained in the 7 stages of purification? Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah, it's sort of a...
In regard to the 7 stages of purification, the manua is a bit different.
Okay, yeah. But the components I can see very much similar.
Very much. Very
yeah.
much.
Similar, yeah, similar.
Yeah.
The instead of vitakka, they use the word doubt. Yeah. So the stage of overcoming doubt is what you talk about, the vitakka.
Yeah. If we go deep into vitarka, it is doubt.
Doubt, yes. Yeah.
Clear doubt. Doubt arising from a wrong view. Doubt arising from the deservance of the present moment. Doubt arising from different factors. Right? Doubt arising from the lack of clarity with regards to the Dhamma. Doubt arising from the Dhamma. Right? Where, for example, when we observe, we try to sort of fit Dharma make what's the name of right? In the practice.
Okay.
That is all vitarka. Right? So vitarka is essentially doubt. But vitarka can also be other things, but at this moment within this sutta, it is really talking about doubt if you go deep into vitarka. Absolutely. Thank you, Damsade. Anyone else? Anything that arose to mind? Or we are good, I think we are good. Okay then, good night. I will see you on Saturday. Take care. Goodbye.
Bhante.
May I ask a question?
Peruan Saranai Bhante.
Peruan Saranai.
Peruan
Thank
Saranai.
you.